Hello there. Welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. You're in a quiet place now, far from the busyness of the day. Let your shoulders drop gently, and your breathing become easy and slow. There's no rush here, no lists, no screens, no noise. You're here to rest, and to listen, to a peaceful story from long ago. Tonight, we'll drift together through the soft sands and warm breezes of a forgotten world, the world of the Minoans, a gentle and elegant civilization that once flourished on the island of Crete, over 3,500 years ago. You may hear the faint echo of waves against the shore, the distant chirping of cicadas in the olive groves, and the rustling of linen robes as people pass quietly through sunlit courtyards. So close your eyes, if you'd like, and let the story begin. Imagine, if you will, a calm, sun-drenched sea, a gentle blue that stretches as far as you can dream. Floating in this sea, like a leaf on still water, is the island of Crete. The air is warm, not heavy, with the soft scent of crushed herbs, thyme, sage, and marjoram, carried on a slow Mediterranean breeze. A goat bell tinkles in the distance. Bees hum sleepily near almond blossoms. There are no cities yet in sight, only the island itself, rising slowly from the sea like something sacred. Here, long ago, around 2000 BCE, a quiet and refined culture began to blossom, one not ruled by war or conquest, but by art, ritual, trade, and nature. This is the world of the Minoans. We don't know what they called themselves. The name, Minoan, was given much later, by historians, inspired by the myth of King Minos, the legendary ruler of Crete. But whatever they called their own people, the Minoans lived in harmony with their island, with one another, and with the soft rhythms of the earth and sea. Let's walk gently into their world, not a fortress, not a castle, but something softer. The heart of Minoan life was the palace, though not a palace in the way we often imagine, with cold stone walls and banners of conquest. The palaces of Crete, like the one at Knossos, the most famous, were sprawling, open, and light-filled, built with layered levels, flowing corridors, open courtyards, and colorful frescoes. The walls were not for battle, but for beauty. As we approach Knossos, the largest of these centers, the first thing we notice is the color. Reds, ochres, sea blues, gently faded now, but still alive. The columns taper downward, unlike the Greek ones that came after. Their wood is burnished and soft. The staircases wind like ivy. We enter a sunlit courtyard where dancers once twirled, and people gathered not to fight, but to celebrate. Above us, birds flutter near the overhangs. Below us, in cool storage rooms, amphorae of olive oil and honey rest quietly in shadow. The palace is alive with motion, not loud or chaotic, but steady, like a breath. Women in flounced skirts carry woven baskets. Priests in white robes tend to quiet shrines. Children chase butterflies near painted pillars. It is not just a palace. It is a heartbeat. It is breath.
What did the Minoans do all day? They rose early, with the sun climbing above the soft Cretan hills. Their homes were built from stone plastered smooth, with small windows to let in light and breeze. They cooked with clay pots, flavored food with garlic, saffron, and cumin. They washed with olive oil soaps, combed their hair with carved ivory picks, and often adorned themselves with jewelry made of shells, bronze, and faience. Their days moved gently, as the sun did. Men worked in the fields or at sea. Women may have led rituals, made pottery, wove intricate cloth, or helped manage stores in the palace. Children played with painted toys or helped gather herbs. There was no wall around Knossos, no thick defenses, which tells us something important, that the Minoans felt safe, or at least safer than many peoples of the Bronze Age. Perhaps this sense of peace helped their culture bloom so beautifully. The Minoans loved art. Their frescoes, still visible today, tell us what mattered most to them. You'll see no great battles painted here, no kings on thrones, no parades of prisoners. Instead, you see dolphins, leaping over sea foam. You see bulls, graceful and sacred, not hunted but danced with. You see dancers, in motion with slender waists and arms raised high. You see nature, blooming, moving, and alive. In one room at Knossos, there is an entire wall painted with dolphins swimming above a doorway. The sea brought indoors. Calm, beautiful, free. Imagine falling asleep in a room painted with dolphins. Imagine drifting into dreams on waves of color and song. The Minoans honored the world with rituals, not grand temples but natural spaces, caves, hilltops, quiet chambers within the palace. They worshipped a goddess or goddesses whose symbols were often doves, serpents, lilies, and double axes. Theirs was not a religion of thunder, but of earth. In the candlelit stillness of a small shrine room, a priestess might light a bowl of fragrant oil, then kneel in silence before a small figurine. No sermons. No fire from the sky. Just breath, gesture, offering. In the hills, offerings of olive branches were left in sacred caves. In the palace, rituals may have been part of everyday life, a way to show respect to the mystery of existence. They seemed to believe that beauty itself was sacred, that to decorate, to sing, to offer, was enough. And here, dear listener, we'll rest for now. We've only just begun our gentle walk through the world of the Minoans. In the next part, we'll wander through their music, explore their seafaring ways, and discover the gentle fade of their golden age. But tonight, we let the story settle. Let the waves lap softly. Let the scent of herbs linger in the air. Let the quiet rhythm of ancient footsteps guide you into sleep. You're safe here. You're warm here. And all is calm. Good night. And may your dreams drift gently through the halls of Gnosis. Welcome back. The candle is still glowing, and the sea is still soft beneath the stars. Tonight, we return gently to the shores of ancient Crete, to the world of the Minoans, where no clocks tick loudly and nothing must be hurried. In the last part, we wandered the halls of Gnosis. We felt the pulse of a palace that breathes, saw dolphins dancing on painted walls, and heard the whisper of ancient ritual. Now, let us follow the wind, down a narrow path of white stone toward the harbor. Let us walk with soft footsteps, into the sound of gulls and the rhythmic hush of waves. We are about to step into the sea, not to sink, but to sail. The Minoans were seafarers, not warriors in heavy ships, but traders, explorers, and navigators of grace. Their ships were long and narrow, carved from cypress and olive wood, and decorated with painted eyes on their prows, to help them see their way across the ocean. They sailed not just to move goods, but to connect, to share, to meet others across the water in peace. From Crete they sailed to Cyprus, Egypt, Anatolia, the Levant, bringing with them not just goods but ideas. They carried pottery, beautifully painted. They carried saffron, olive oil, fine wool, and even perfumes. In return they received copper, gold, lapis, and stories from afar. They were not a people isolated on an island. They were a people who made the sea into a bridge. And what a quiet, shimmering bridge it was. Imagine the soft bustle of a Minoan market. There are no shouts, no clanging coins or calls of competition, only the quiet exchange of goods, and the soft murmur of conversation between neighbors. You walk slowly past stalls shaded with linen, tables of golden honey, bright lemons, and small bowls of crushed herbs, pottery jars painted with curling octopi and spiraling shells, textiles dyed with saffron, threads the color of sunrise. You hear a flute playing nearby, not to perform but simply to be. Women discuss the best cuts of dried fish. Men carefully inspect ropes of garlic. Children laugh softly over honey cakes, their fingers sticky and sweet. There is no rush, only rhythm. A serene Minoan open-air market near the sea. Stalls are draped in cream-colored cloths. Tables overflow with fruits, amphorae, folded textiles, and baskets of herbs. Shoppers in patterned linen robes chat quietly. A musician plays a wooden flute under the shade of a fig tree. Light filters through leafy vines. In the distance the sea glimmers pale turquoise. Just beyond the edge of the town the Minoans, we believe, lived surrounded by music. Though no sheet music survives, we know they used lyres, flutes, frame drums, and sistrums. Simple instruments made of wood, string, and clay. They likely accompanied rituals, celebrations, and long evenings under olive trees. Music for the Minoans was perhaps not performance, but presence. Imagine the slow beat of a frame drum echoing through a courtyard, a reed flute winding like breeze through open corridors, hands clapping gently in rhythm with dancers, bare feet on warm stone. Music not to stir but to settle inside homes. Life was quiet and skilled. Weaving was an art in Minoan culture, and perhaps a sacred one. Looms stood in many households. Threads were dyed with pomegranate skin, saffron flowers, indigo root. Fabrics shimmered with soft earth tones. The hands of Minoan women worked with grace, not hurriedly, not frantically, but with purposeful peace. Clothing was more than cloth. It told stories, patterns of spirals, waves, and sacred horns. Jewelry, too, spoke without words. Gold bees, carved gemstones, shells from the far corners of the Aegean. Adornment was not vanity, it was expression. Art was everywhere. On the walls, on the skin, in the hands of those at rest. In Minoan life, animals were not just companions or food. They were sacred. The bull especially was revered. But not hunted, not sacrificed in loud displays. The Minoans practiced a ritual known as bull leaping, a kind of ceremonial dance where young acrobats would grasp the horns of a bull and gracefully vault over its back. It may sound dramatic, but to the Minoans it was a kind of offering, a trust between human and beast. And all around their frescoes we find images of animals. Birds in flight, cats curled in windows, fish swimming in curved spirals. Their art was not separate from the world. It reflected it, celebrated it, respected it. The day is ending. The Minoan sun is slipping behind soft hills. Fires flicker inside courtyards. The sea turns lavender and deep blue. Linen curtains shift slowly in the window breeze. From the high terrace of Gnosis, someone pours wine into a carved cup. They look out across the water, not seeking conquest, but simply wondering what lies beyond. The Minoans did not build pyramids or wage great wars. They did not carve empires in stone. But they lived beautifully, and quietly, and perhaps that is why they still whisper to us, and so now, dear dreamer, we let the story quiet again. We've watched the harbor, heard the music, touched the fabric of Minoan hands. There is more to tell, but not tonight. Tonight we let the sea rock gently. We let the oil lamp burn low. We let the voices of the past fade into peaceful night air. You're still here, safe and soft in your bed. Let your breath rise and fall like the tide, and drift deeper into sleep. Good night, and may you dream of seashells, sunlit courtyards, and ships with eyes that see the dawn. Candle, welcome back. You're lying comfortably now, perhaps beneath a cozy blanket, or beside a window that lets in the quiet hum of the night. Tonight, we return to the Minoans, not to their markets or palaces, but to the hills, the stones, the sacred places carved by wind and time. Because for the Minoans, the divine was not locked in walls or golden thrones. The divine lived in the earth, in the mountains, and deep within the slow silence of caves. Let us follow their footsteps up the slopes. Let us carry an offering, not of gold, but of stillness. The sun is just rising over the hills of central Crete. The path ahead of us is narrow, dusty, and winding, but gentle. Goats graze nearby, their bells chiming softly. The breeze carries the scent of wild oregano and mountain thyme. Cicadas sing in slow rhythm. We are following a trail that thousands of Minoans once walked. It leads to a peak sanctuary, a sacred space atop a mountain, open to the sky. These mountaintop shrines were not grand temples. They were humble. A stone enclosure, a few low benches, small figurines, offerings of pottery, wheat, feathers, and olive branches. But from here, the entire island spreads below like a sleeping beast, the sea in every direction, the sky vast and clean. Here the Minoans prayed not with noise, but with presence. What did the Minoans say to the gods? We don't know. But we know how they showed their reverence. In the mountain shrines, they left small clay human and animal figurines, not grand statues, but tender gestures. In one hand a bundle of dried wheat, in another, a twig of olive or bay. They may have knelt, or stood quietly, arms lifted to the sky. There was no priest class in shining robes, no thunderous ceremony. Only people, and nature, and the space between them. Not all sacred places were high. Some were deep. Caves, cool, dark, echoing, were believed by the Minoans to be places of birth, of transformation, of quiet power. One of the most famous was the cave of Psychro, later mythologized as the birthplace of Zeus, but long before that it was sacred to the Minoans. Here they left offerings, ceramic bowls, double axes carved from stone, seashells, even small statues of women holding serpents. The floor is damp, the air cold and still. Water drips from the ceiling in a slow, echoing rhythm. A lantern glows gently near the altar stones. Here they came to listen. Not to speak, not to demand, but to listen to the pulse of the earth itself. The Minoans didn't write epic poems, at least none that survived. But they inscribed the world around them, with symbols. The double axe, or labris, was one of the most important, perhaps a symbol of power, of femininity, or of transformation. It appears everywhere. On palace walls, cave stones, tiny votive tablets. Another is the spiral, drawn in painted pottery, engraved in gold, carved into seal stones. The spiral is not dramatic. It moves in slow motion, inward then outward, always returning, always moving. Like breath, like sleep. Imagine, if you will, a warm spring morning in ancient Crete. The village gathers in a field outside the town. Musicians tune flutes. Garlands of flowers are draped over doorways. It is a festival, not of fear, not of fire, but of life. The Minoans celebrated with dance, food, music, and shared rituals. They honored the changing seasons, the return of spring, the arrival of rain. They did not shout their prayers to the sky. They danced them, slow circles, flowing robes, bare feet in new grass. Children laughed, priests sang, and somewhere in the background, the sea whispered its approval, but not all sacred spaces were far away. Many Minoan homes had shrines within, a corner set aside, a small painted figurine, a bowl for oil or incense or flower petals. Even the palace of Gnosis had sacred spaces woven into its very walls, not separate but integrated, as though the divine lived not just above or below, but within. The Minoans didn't separate their world from the sacred. They lived inside it, and so another day in Minoan Crete draws to a close. We've walked the winding mountain paths. We've stepped into dark caves glowing with soft fire. We've seen how they prayed, not with thunder but with care. The stars return above the hills. The night wind sighs across the valleys. Torches flicker quietly in shrine corners. Let this stillness stay with you. Let the breath of ancient mountain air settle over your dreams. You are safe now. You are wrapped in olive-scented air, guarded by spirals and stone. Sleep now, sleep deeply, and let the Minoan night carry you into silence. Welcome back, dear listener. You are still within the dream of Crete. The sea still murmurs, the air is still warm with thyme and olive smoke, and tonight, as you rest, we walk slowly into the colors, the brushes, the soft hands that shaped the Minoan world. We are going to meet the ones who built, the ones who painted, the ones who carved beauty into stone, not for power, but for peace. Let the breath slow again, let the shoulders fall. And let's begin. In the cool chambers of Minoan palaces, the walls were not bare, they were alive. Painted with frescoes, scenes of nature, dance, animals, and people. The Minoans mastered the art of true fresco, applying pigment to wet plaster so that color became part of the wall itself. Not painted on but merged, bonded, permanent. They painted without fear. Lines flowed freely. Figures moved in dance. There was no obsession with symmetry or harsh realism. Instead, they captured life in motion, with curves, spirals, and elegance. And unlike many ancient cultures, the Minoans painted women prominently, and often, not as background figures but as leaders, dancers, and priestesses. In every swirl of blue, every golden curl, there is a softness and a strength. The frescoes did not demand attention. They invited it. Now, step with me into the bones of a Minoan building. You'll notice it right away. It doesn't feel like a fortress. It feels like air. Walls of clay and stone, yes, but filled with windows and balconies. Timber used not just for support, but for flexibility, to bend gently with the earth's movements. You might think of this as early earthquake engineering, but really, it's also a kind of empathy, with the land beneath their feet. The architecture of the Minoans was not designed to impress, but to belong. Roofs were flat, sometimes used as gardens or open sleeping spaces. Rooms were built around light wells, open shafts that let in sunshine and breeze. There was running water, clever drainage, even bathing areas with curved, graceful basins. These homes and palaces weren't just shelters. They were living things. They breathed with the day. They whispered with the wind. Let's pause for a moment. Not to admire the result, but to sit with the hands that made these places. The Minoan artisan worked not with machines, but with rhythm. A potter's wheel spinning slowly, the clay rising under steady fingers. A chisel tapping gently at stone. A brush dragging mineral color across plaster. Each item, be it a cup or a wall or a pin, was made not just for use, but for beauty. A storage jar might be painted with curling vines or swimming fish. A hairpin might be shaped like a golden bee. A ceiling beam might be carved with wave patterns. Why? Because to the Minoans every detail deserved care. There was no low art. There was only craft. And in that craft, peace was made visible, even as they built with such care. The Minoans did not stay home. Their ships, elegant and long, glided across the sea like dragonflies. They traded far and wide, not to conquer, but to connect. From Egypt they brought papyrus, faience, and gold. From Cyprus, copper. From Anatolia, textiles and minerals. To these places they brought olive oil, wine, saffron, pottery, and joy. Their influence spread through the Aegean. Even the Mycenaeans, the rising mainland Greeks, borrowed heavily from Minoan ways, their script, their art, their architecture. But the Minoans never seemed to force their culture on others. They offered it, quietly, generously, like a story shared at twilight. And now we come to the part in every ancient story where things begin to change. But do not worry. This is not a fall with fire and ruin. This is a fade, a gentle misting away. Around 1450 BCE, the palaces of Crete suffered damage, perhaps from an earthquake, perhaps from a volcanic eruption far away on the island of Thera, or perhaps gently over time from shifting powers across the sea. We may never know for certain, but what we do know is that the Minoan culture, once vibrant and open, began to dissolve into other hands. The Mycenaeans took over the palaces. The language changed. The frescoes became fewer. The spiral began to unwind. Not with a scream, not with flame, but with stillness. Even though the Minoans faded, they left behind something that never disappeared. The rhythm of their craft, the elegance of their architecture, the balance of their lives. Their frescoes still breathe. Their pottery still sings. Their symbols, the spiral, the double axe, the leaping dolphin, still appear. Even now, in modern Crete, you can walk among their stones, hear the sea they heard, and feel, if you are very quiet, the presence of a world that chose peace over power. And in that, they endure. And now, our walk has slowed. We've seen the halls, the harbors, the hills. We've walked through their art, and through their silence. Let all of that settle now, like dust in a beam of evening sun. Let your breath grow deep. Let your thoughts float like curled fish painted on clay. You are safe here, and the Minoans are not gone. They're part of the dream. Good night, dear listener, and may the beauty of long quiet hands cradle you into sleep. You've wandered far, dear listener, and now you're returning to the place where evening gathers, like a shawl around your shoulders. Let's step back softly into Minoan Crete. Not the palace halls this time, not the grand frescoed walls, but a quiet village at dusk. No more learning, no more walking, just gentle presence. We're simply going to sit and watch, as the sun slips down behind the olive-covered hills, and the final threads of Minoan daily life settle into shadow. Your breath can drift now, as slow as the sea at low tide. Let's go, one last time. The village of this evening is tucked along a gentle slope. Stone homes low and warm with flat roofs and soft wooden doors. Walls are whitewashed and softened by time. Bougainvillea spills over clay pots. Sheep bells clink faintly in the distance. You see a woman sweeping her courtyard with quiet rhythm. Her child plays with pebbles, tracing spirals in the dust. A man kneels by an oven, checking on a round flatbread, as the last golden light fades across his shoulders. No one is in a hurry. There is no urgency. Even the dogs are calm, lying in soft folds of shade, their ears flicking at the occasional fly. A neighbor passes by with a small basket, perhaps figs or fresh herbs. She greets the others with a slow, knowing nod. The day is winding down, but no one feels the need to rush it away. A short time later, you see the fire bowls lit. Each home has one or two low clay dishes filled with charcoal, slowly glowing in the evening breeze. Cooking smells drift lightly on the air. Herbs, lentils, wild greens sautéed in olive oil. Meals here are not elaborate, but they are full of care. You see a family sit cross-legged on a reed mat, passing bowls of barley, soft cheese, olives, and honeyed figs. A small jug of wine is poured with slow hands. There is no feast, but there is abundance. Conversation is hushed. Laughter is gentle. And when someone tells a story, others listen, with quiet eyes reflecting the firelight. The warmth of food, the ease of company, the rhythm of life uninterrupted. Now the sun is gone. The sky turns lavender, then navy, And finally, velvet black, punctuated with gentle stars. Some children curl up early on the rooftop, on folded blankets or sheepskins. Others remain by the fire, wide-eyed, as an elder begins a tale. His voice is steady and low. He tells of dolphins that speak in dreams, and bees that guard golden caves. He remembers a time when the goddess walked among them in human shape, and taught the people how to find fresh springs, just by watching how dragonflies flew. The stories are not told for truth. They are told for belonging. And in this telling, the ancient becomes eternal. Now it's truly night. All of Crete begins to exhale. You can hear the distant sea, not crashing, but whispering to the sand. Crickets sing soft lullabies from the fields. A pottery jar creaks faintly as it cools. A wooden wind chime clinks gently from a beam. Even the goats have settled into sleep, their bells silent, their breaths slow. The wind, once warm, now carries the cool hush of the mountains. And in the deep quiet, you can almost hear the island itself sleeping. As you lie there, dear dreamer, as you rest beneath this ancient sky, a final thought comes to you. The Minoans never tried to make forever. They made beauty for the now. They painted to dance. They built to breathe. They lived to be present. And perhaps that's why their world still touches us. Because in a world full of rush and roar, their quiet care remains. Let that stay with you now, as sleep folds gently around you, like a linen robe, like a cool stone wall, like a breeze through tall grasses at midnight. You are safe. You are still. And the island will wait for you. Always. Candle. Good night, from ancient Crete.